Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, I'm excited to welcome Nechama to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kyra. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so glad to have you. So why don't we get started? We're going to first have you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Okay. My name is Nechama Robinson, and I use a deep understanding of personality to empower individuals and support relationships. I've actually developed a personality algorithm that opens up, really, the way I see it, is it opens up a whole new way to understand personality, individuality, and even humanity.
Yes. Well, first of all, I have to say, when we were introduced to each other, I was like, yes, 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 because I am a person, I definitely love a good and a true personality assessment that feels like, wow, they know me better than are they peeking in on me? And I know we're going to talk about a little bit later my experience with it, but let me just tell you all listening and watching out there, like it was spot on. I was like, what? So
So much. Like, I feel so honored. Like, it just means so much to hear that.
yeah, so yes, and I think that what you said is so important for people to have this type of tool to just understand like the unique qualities that we, especially as women, that we bring to the table. Like that's just so important.
I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about, what makes your personality algorithm different from all the others that are out there?
Yeah. So my personality algorithm, or assessment, as you call it, and understanding it's an assessment, and then it brings a whole. Once you assess someone's personality type, there's a whole data set, if you will, about that person. So it's an assessment followed by then a whole way to look at something, look at personality. What makes my assessment, my algorithm different is that number one, I look at the individual aspects of personality, not just what we share with someone else who might have the same personality. And part of that, or connected to that, is that I take into consideration the ways that we're influenced by our environment, and we continue to evolve constantly. So when I was developing my algorithm, something that I didn't like about all the other systems I encountered is that they don't have a fluidity to them. Sort of like you're this personality type, and that's it. You land, and it's sort of that's what you got. Whereas I look at personality as part of, as we evolve, how we evolve, what we need to evolve is all sort of, it comes from, right, who we are and our deep personality. So I believe that we're born with personality, and again, the way I see it is personality is a toolbox for surviving and thriving in life. And I believe that each person actually has three of those toolboxes. Again, I won't go into more detail now, but I believe we're born with those three toolboxes. How we use them is completely unique. So if you have a million people of the same, I want to really make this point. If you have a million people of the same personality type in a room, no one would say they're clones of each other. Everyone would, intuitive people would say, these people have something in common. I don't know if I could put my finger on it, right? So I'm trying to sort of get into that. But what I want to say is that part of my algorithm is that it accounts for individuality, for how we evolve, very much the fluidity of who we are as individuals, where I've never seen that in any other personality sort of assessment or algorithm system, whatever you want to call it.
And I agree with you. I think that you hit the nail on the head because I think that is the really important part is that we're not all the same. And so many of the assessments are just like, oh, well, you're this. And then it just is like, oh, there you go. You're this. And that's the end of it. But what I loved about your process is that there were things that I could pinpoint to my actual personal, my relationship and experiences that were like, oh, yeah, that's me. And this is why that's me. And this is why I resonate with this particular trait is because of X. So I love that. So can you talk a little bit about just like how the process works, how we walk through it? And then if you wouldn't mind giving us a sneak peek into some of the personality types.
Absolutely. So part of the algorithm is that I have developed just two multiple choice questions. I could literally stop anyone on the street, ask them those two multiple choice questions, and if they answer them, I will, that's my keys to the kingdom of their personality. I will know a lot about, really, I'll understand them at a very deep level. Now, I don't always have the opportunity to ask people the questions, obviously. Then in those situations, like if I'm watching 90 Day Fiance, for example, because I create content about the cast members and relationships in 90 Day Fiance, obviously I can ask them the questions, but I can make observations about how they speak, how they behave, how they interact, how they respond to certain things. And then I can just, by observation, figure out which personality type they are. So let me say what the 9 personality types are, because no one can memorize them, but they'll notice a pattern. And I think it helps sort of, I don't know, I think it helps people understand, oh, okay, just what I'm doing. Okay. So what I want to say, there are 9 personality types on a closed loop. Any one of those 9 can be someone's core personality. Whichever one of them is someone's core personality, the 2 on either side, they're always in the same order on that loop. The 2 on either side are their bodyguard personalities. So every single person, as I see it, has a personality triad, which includes their core personality and 2 bodyguards. And the way those 3 interact is unique to them. So that's what accounts for infinite individuality. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to tell you, again, all 9, no one has to memorize anything, but you'll notice a pattern. Okay? Social explorer, social change maker, social connector, ideas explorer, ideas change maker, ideas connector, physical explorer, physical change maker, physical connector. And that loops back around to the social explorer. So those are the 9 personality types, and I could talk about any of them. But should we start with yours, or should I start with a different one? That's up to you.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about mine.
Okay. So Kyra, you are, and because you answered the questions, so that's how you are a physical connector. Now, I look at personality, like I said, as a toolbox for surviving and thriving in life. And I look at personality from a strengths-based perspective. So I don't see personality as, oh, helping me figure out what's wrong with you. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with you or any of us. I think that the world is the problem, not people. That's my personal perspective. And I use personality to actually identify someone's super talents, so that, because I think if we all have super talents, and if we were more aware of them, we're not always aware of them. And if we were aware of them, I think there would just be a very positive chain reaction, how it would impact us, honestly. So your super talent, the super talents of so your core personality, physical connector, one bodyguard is physical change maker, and the other bodyguard is social explorer. Now, I want to point out that every personality triad has one of the explorers, right? Because there's 3 possible explorers, if you noticed on the 9, one of the change makers, and one of the connectors. And I can say more about that a little bit later, but what I want to say is the significance of that is that explorer is where we house love. Whatever our explorer is determines how we house love. Change maker, kind of how we deal with things we want to change, which includes conflict. The connector manages our relationship with the world. So whichever one of those is our core personality. So for you, you're a core connector. And the significance of that is that what that tells me, all the aspects are important to you. Love is important to all, they're all important to all of us. Love is important to all of us. Being able to change things we don't like that make us unhappy, important to all of us. But the one that's our core personality, it just has an extra something, okay? So for you, your connection to the world, which includes how you bridge the gap between who you really are and how the world might perceive you, how you see your place in the world, how the world sort of receives you, and how you feel like your relationship with the world as a whole, right? And how you feel and about being in the world, and about how the world relates to you. Even if you think about everything you do, I mean, you are Superwoman, you just are, right? And you do so much in the world. And that really, even just the fact that you're a core connector, not even talking about how you are always doing things that relate to your connection to the world, relates to the fact that you're a physical connector versus an ideas connector, or versus a social connector. You do things in a very you're sort of very much have a particular approach. Okay. But that's the thing. It's literally not the only thing, but one of the most important aspects of how you define yourself is how you see your place in the world, interaction with the world, relationship with the world. Very, very important to you. Now, the physical connectors, so that ties into and every personality has more than one super talent. There's usually sort of one that I think all the others sort of revolve around to some extent. So the way I describe the super talent of the physical connector is it's an incredible gift. It's truly a talent for bringing together efficiency and elegance. And that can manifest in different aspects of your life, in your life as a whole. personally, professionally, in your space and how you schedule time. I mean, there's so many ways where that can manifest. But what it really, if you think about it, physical connectors are generally perceived by others and often by themselves, at least in one aspect of their life, in one or more aspect of their life, as perfectionist. Because if you think about it, if you bring together efficiency and elegance, it's sort of the practical and the beautiful. There's something perfect about that, right? A lot of people, oh, I can make this really efficient and it's very clunky, right? Or I can make something beautiful, but it doesn't really do much. You know what I mean? But when you can bring those two together, and it's a talent, it's not just random time, it's what you do all day, every day. Like everything you do has that magic, right? So that is really the talent. It's the super talent of the physical connectors. And there are lots of things, again, that go around that sort of connect to that. So, but before, again, we could talk about that, but let me sort of then give your bodyguards. So, well, you feel free to interrupt me. If I'm talking about something you don't want me to talk about, should I go into your bodyguards or should I?
Yes, yeah.
So one of your bodyguards is physical change maker, and the other bodyguard is social explorer. So the physical change maker, the super talent of the physical change maker, is a force to be reckoned with. Now, bodyguards they can relate to the core personality in different ways. They can be what I call circumstantial, meaning that they mostly come out under certain circumstances. They can be pervasive, meaning they're always sort of there in the background, or some combination of both. Okay. And again, very individual. Now, with you, I know you a little bit, right? So what I would say is, so the physical change maker, I say a force to be reckoned with, tremendous, like you have a talent. You're very in touch with your power. It's a bodyguard. Again, I will say the physical connector core personality and physical change maker bodyguard work, in some ways, really work hand in hand. In some ways, they may be at odds because physical change maker just pushes forward. When you're in a situation that is just brick wall, you're hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, your core personality might be inclined to say, you know what, this isn't working. I have to read the writing on the wall. But your bodyguard, and you might even feel this internally because you might have a moment where you're just like, should I keep doing this? But then it'll almost be like, angel on your shoulder, if you will. You have this bodyguard. You can decide not to. But often this bodyguard, the physical change maker, is like, hey, yeah, my turn now. I'm taking over. We're doing this. You know what I mean? And it's sort of a voice of persistence and of sort of,
It doesn't let you rest. Yeah. Like it almost won't let me rest because
Yeah.
it's like, you need to go ahead, fix it.
Yes, because it's like I'm in my power. Like it's recognizing that the physical change maker is very tuned in to, and this is a wonderful thing, okay, to power dynamics. So the physical change maker reads what I call the human power grid. Again, it's a bodyguard for you. So it's not your end all be all. But when it's a useful tool, you can be in any situation where there's people. You can be, again, thinking about the world as a whole. It doesn't have to be physically somewhere. When you're thinking about, even politics or a group situation you're in, you have an ability to just be like, where's the power source? How is it flowing? Am I where I want to be? Am I where I deserve to be in that flow of power? If not, how do I want to respond to? Is there a way for me to get there? How can I get there? What would be the way? It's very much an ability to sort of, again, read the human power grid. And then because you're also that part of you, the physical change maker, very tuned into its own power, right? And so it wants to be in its power. And so when you're in a situation where wanting to be in your power is essential, you can trust that you're in your physical change maker. Again, they can work together. It's not mutually exclusive. You can, obviously, your core personality can be participating as well as a bodyguard, but you can be sure that the physical change maker is either the only or one of the parts of your triad that's there if you're in a situation where being in touch with your own power is critical. Okay. Now, the other bodyguard, social explorer, your triad is wonderful because it has such a balance. The social explorer is literally the opposite in personality, and they're both good. They're both wonderful because we need all different tools, right? We don't always need the same tool, right? But the social explorer is the gift, the talent of the social explorer is unconditional acceptance. And I have to say that watching your episodes, watching your podcast, I can see that. Like you just, whoever your guest, you can have guests who are all different, each one. And honestly, like I feel it now. I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm making fun of myself, but it's like, I'm her favorite guest. Like there's a sense where I feel so accepted. You know what I mean? And yeah,
Yeah.
I think I see that in every one of your guests, like they feel accepted. It's something, and not everyone can do that. Like you make it look so easy, but it's not, it's a specific gift of your social explorer bodyguard. So how you love is with social explorer. How you deal with conflict is physical change maker, although your core personality, the physical connector, understands, is excellent. Okay, when you are in a professional situation, any situation where understanding the rules of engagement is really important, then your core personality, the physical connector, is just mini super talents that sort of goes into the main super talent, is you can walk into any situation and in an instant, you know the rules of engagement. Okay. Now, your social explorer bodyguard is also part of that. So you go into a situation, you know the rules of engagement. Let's say you think they're stupid, okay, but you still want to be there. Okay. You can decide if, let's say, somehow the rules of engagement feel really wrong, like they feel there's a real imbalance of power, something's wrong. Your physical change maker is going to be, again, your core personality is always in charge. So there might be a situation that emotionally triggers your physical change maker, but because your core personality is your core personality, it'll be like, stand down, take a moment or whatever. You know what I mean? But you decide that it's really not emotionally safe or not worth it, then you'll be like, okay, I'm out of here. But if you say, these rules are stupid, but I still want to be here, then the social explorer bodyguard, which can bring you into that space of unconditional acceptance. It's not just unconditional acceptance of people. It's unconditional acceptance of circumstances as well. So when you have the ability to be in situations where inside you're like, I am waiting to be free of this place. I am waiting. Unfortunately, that moment is not now. So what do I do? And that's where your social explorer is, that capacity, accept, be in the moment, accept it now. It's not forever. And that part of you, right? Can you see what I'm saying? Does that describe like what
Yeah.
you explained?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. It makes sense as you look at your every day. And that's one of the things that why I think this is such an important tool, because it allows you to think about daily relationships and daily situations. Whereas you saying that, I've always thought, yeah, I'm very adaptable to situations, even if I'm like, this is crazy. But
Exactly.
in the moment, I'm like, well, let me just figure out how I can make this work, how we can get through it. And a lot of times when you work, I'll just the example I'll use is like the corporate space, right? When you work in corporate America, every day there's probably a scenario. I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. But I am going to adapt for the greater good. The greater good means I need to do this today. I may not always agree with it, but then there are moments where I am like, nah, I can't stand for this. I need to say something. And so I think for everyone listening or watching out there, this was very eye opening, because also Nechama is very intuitive. And I think that's one of the things that she didn't talk about. But for her to be able to, for us to have a conversation, for her to ask these two questions, for me to start to talk about hearing the results, and for me to talk and for her to listen, she was actually able to put it all together and to give so many okay, tell me, is this you? And I was like, yes, yes. And so I think this is such an important tool for women, and no disrespect to my men listening out there or watching, but I'm just saying from a place of being a woman myself and being in the world that we live in, I think it's such an important tool, because it allows for you to think about how you deal in different situations and different relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you. It really touches my heart. I want you to know that your words, they really touch me deeply. Right. Something that I wanted to add that I meant to say is that, for example, so the way you love is, I know I'm just lumping that on, but it's something that I want to say. The way you love is with the social explorer. And so that, again, is different from how an ideas explorer would love and how a physical explorer would love. You know what I mean? And then the way you deal with conflict is physical change maker, again, connected also your core personality. But physical change maker is how you deal in a situation that you really need to change, and it's sort of, certainly I'll say life that feels physically or emotionally life and death. Like when you're in a situation where it's like you're just all on guard, then it's physical change maker. And then again, how you interact with the world and how you see your place in the world is physical connect. So again, did I say, I realized physical change maker, he deals with physical connection to the world. Exactly. Sometimes the words just, get stumbled around.
And the reason also too, the reason why I think it's so important is because it is like the world, right? It is every day that we go out and we have to deal in the world. And the world can be a scary place. It could be a very scary place. And we have to figure out like how to have our voices heard, which is really important. And I always say that that's part of what we do here. And what's so important for me in the work I do is for women to know that they have a voice and to be able to raise that voice and to share and have space, like making sure that that we hold the space that we deserve and we desire.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, so really beautifully said. I so appreciate that. And that's something I really appreciate about your podcast in general. Yeah, I just want to say that you don't need me to tell you this, but you're amazing. Like, I have so much respect and appreciation for you. Thank you so much. Really.
And a tool like this, so like I've talked about plenty of times on the show, I like a good assessment. Strength Finders was one of my like favorites because in the everyday workplace, it helped people to identify things that were unique about them and how they could add value in a place where oftentimes it's like, oh, if you don't have this box, you're not going to move to the next level. And then there was another assessment, I'll say it's called Fascinate Advantage, which is one that looks at how you influence. How do you build influence in the workplace or in your life? And I feel like these now with your assessment, it's come at a time where I'm at a different place in life. And I think a lot of women are here where we are trying to figure out like, how do we impact the world? What's most important for me as a person, and always as I've grown older and wiser, I like to say, is that for me, it's about how do I leave the world a better place than I found it. And I think you're meeting you and having this discussion that we've had even prior to this, it met me at a place, where I was and where I needed to hear. And it's like, okay, great. Now I know how I can tackle what's ahead.
That means it means so much. And thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And I just think it could be a tool that can help so many people. I know one part of what you talk about is how it can help people and women to have an understanding, like how their personality, how it can empower women and to support also relationships. Can you talk some more about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a deeper understanding of who we are. It's very empowering, especially if we look at it from a strengths-based perspective. If we have two super talents, if we're not aware of our super talents, and then we become aware of our super talents, right? That's going to be empowering. And understanding who we are and also who the other person who we're relating to is, gives us the tools, even if, again, we don't know them that well, we can already gain certain understanding just from even first meeting them. But even if we don't, even if we're like, oh, I need more time to get to know them, but I know myself, we can bring so much intention. We can use the awareness of who we are to then be intentional in every relationship that we have, because we sort of understand. So I believe that how we think, how we feel, and everything that comes from that, so how we communicate, how our generally how we approach life, what we do, it's not just influence. It literally goes through the filter. The brain is a filter, right? It's a natural filter, okay? So people know that we think, oh, if I remember something, it's like a video in my head, that it's sort of objective. It's not. That's why they say if you take 10 people who are at the same scene of an accident, even. I mean, well, that's different. That's too simplistic. But if you have 10 people who are really in a situation with each other and they're all being sincere, they will still all tell slightly different stories. Our brain just filters based on our experience. If it didn't, we wouldn't be able to manage, right? It would be overwhelming. Every new experience would be so overwhelming. So our brain is a natural filter. So I lost my own train of thought. I started saying something. Well, you were asking about people. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just like in relationships, like how, can it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So if we understand our personality, because we might think, oh, how I respond to that person, anyone would respond the exact same way. No, our personality is a filter for how we perceive things. It's a filter for, again, sort of how we communicate things. Everything is very individual. I'm very much an individualist. So when we understand personality, especially in a way that's individualized, then we can identify and say, oh, you know what? That's something I do that I really like that I do that. I never really had an understanding of it, but I felt it, but I didn't, there were times when I wished I could go back to that place or wanted to respond that way, but then I didn't. I don't know why. But if we understand personality, oh, now I know why. Because that situation triggered my bodyguard, which sort of jumped to the front of the line, even though it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And oh, okay, so now when that happens, again, it's all good, but saying to my bodyguard, internally, like I have this internal dialogue of like, wow, you know what? There are times when you save my life. Right now, just, 5 minutes. Like, then I'll bring you in then, but just give me a moment. I'm sorry, I'll have better, because we also don't want to be shutting down. So, you know how they say, like, if you're teaching children, the old stranger danger doesn't work. What you actually want to do is teach children to trust their intuition. It doesn't matter, stranger, familiar, it doesn't matter, because again, children are more endangered by people they know, actually. So stranger danger is not so practical. And beyond that, it's not about whether they're a stranger or not. It's about your feeling, trusting your feeling. And so they say, basically, you teach kids to trust their feeling, right? And so if I have an feeling, so let's say I'm in a particular situation and I'm getting that feeling, and that triggers a bodyguard to react. Now, even though I'm getting that feeling, really, it's definitely legit, but because I'm a grown up, really, I'm not really at risk or in danger in any way. And it would be in my best interest to be aware of my feeling, but not react from it. So then if we know our personality and we know usually the change maker in a personality triad, the change maker, the connector, the explorer usually doesn't so much react. It's usually the connector and the change maker that react. And so if we're in a situation and those two are reacting, or we feel something, we can be like, okay, I have an feeling. First thing I'm going to do is honor it. Because we don't want to say to people, oh, don't react in that situation that way, like shut it down. Because if you look at in our society, that's sort of what we're taught. Like, okay, you're in that situation, you want to react, don't react, shut it down, right? But if we're understanding, we're like, no, that is my very, very healthy feeling that serves me and that I need to keep. But it doesn't always mean that I want to act in the same way, responsible feeling. Okay. But once I can identify it as a feeling, and once I can understand my own personality and why I'm having that feeling, because it's going to be different for different people. It's not one size fits all. But when once I can identify that, I'm in a situation and I feel my face turning red. I feel like I want to react. And then I immediately have, feeling, okay, you know what? I know exactly. That's my change maker bodyguard, feeling threatened, feeling like someone's trying to take my power away. You know what? That's true. It's true. It's not wrong. But you know what? I need to focus on things right now. And later I can process. I can get support where I need it. I can give myself some extra nurturing. I can do the things to relate to it. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying that I want to be focusing on something else right now. We're focusing on a different part of my own internal awareness, because I also have other parts of me. I don't just have that reactive part. And so it helps to shift the focus within ourselves. We're like, yep, I'm not dismissing you. I respect you. I'm so grateful. You saved my life. And we'll be connecting later. You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll be having some fun later, or whatever. We'll be getting support. I'll be comforting you. We'll be working together. So that's the more we can understand our personality, the more we can. So in life, I think as a physical connector, I have no doubt that you recognize and that you often feel that you need to make the choice to compartmentalize. Like it just right in a situation. Most people, I don't know if this is true about you, but I think in our society, most people working in the corporate world, compartmentalizing in that moment, we are shutting down. We we might say, oh, I feel something, we're going to support my feelings later. I'm definitely going to give myself that extra support later, but not in a specific way. So the specific voice in that moment is still sort of being dismissed, right? We're just going to come back later and say, oh, I deserve some support. But if we really can recognize and hear our own voice and honor it, even when in that moment our actions or words are sort of not being governed by it. We're sort of like, we can still honor it. So it's so important. That's why, to me, understanding ourselves helps us honor ourselves, which is very, again, all good way of saying empowers us. It empowers us, and it empowers us in relationship. And yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really good point because, yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, and sometimes in certain situations in corporate, and then, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deal with this right now, that I'm going to step away, and then I'm going to let those feelings be known that I was bothered by this or this happened. And then I'm going to say, okay, processing it, it happened. And then I think, like you said, like that social change maker of that being like, okay, but I'm going to allow grace in this moment because yeah.
Absolutely. What I want to add to that is your physical change maker. There was a moment, obviously, there's a moment in that situation where you're feeling your physical change maker. Is how I would say, where you're feeling that. And when you shift, you are definitely honoring it and you're saying, hey, look, deal with it later. But I feel that there's an extra level that you have the choice. It's totally your choice. But if you specifically recognize that your physical change maker is there to protect you, and there's genius behind that reaction, even though in real life you can't fully allow it. I would invite you, and I'm not saying you don't already do this, but if you don't already do it, I would invite you to give specifically your physical change maker an extra hug and to really see it and be like, wow, you know what? I am so grateful because you keep me safe. And if God forbid I were in a situation where I didn't need to react right then, like, you're there for me, like you got my back. You know what I mean? And it's really honor that part of you that even though in that moment you're like, you still really are great. You can honor that part of you that did react in that moment, even though you're not then taking it a few steps further into expression of it. But I still want to, I would really encourage you to give, if you're not already doing it, you may already be doing it, give it that extra support. Because I think that especially as women, it's cumulative. So we're in a situation and we have to over and over and over again say, I'm going to give you love later. I got to go do this. There's still a time, even though we're saying I'm going to give you love later, there's still a tiny, almost it gets worn down. It's feeling like I'm not loved as much as I want to be, right? And I think for women, it gets worn down. It gets worn down. So it's so important. That voice, that,
Yeah, your little
boss, woman boss, that voice to the nth degree, I want to honor it. Even if my choice in the moment, maybe right then, the way I behave can't really reveal that power to the other people who are standing right there. I'm still honoring it. I'm still honoring that power and not in any way minimize it or saying, I wish you weren't so intense. No, you're amazing. And I love that you're that intense. That's why I say the world is the problem, not people. Like, we need to honor ourselves and be like, yeah, the world is what it is. And okay, but does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I like that. Okay, so, people might be listening, watching, and they're saying, Nahana, do you consider yourself a coach? Because you dropped the knowledge.
Yeah. So my goal, my mission is to make a dent in what I call hate culture. Okay. And I do that as an entertainment brand. Like I mentioned earlier, I create content about cast members, couples, relationships from the 90 Day Fiancé franchise. And I use my algorithm to share insights basically about, again, the cast members and the relationships. Now, my professional focus is not coaching. But if someone wants to reach out to me, they're welcome to, and we can set up a session. Welcoming to people. Yeah.
Yes. Now, so that leads us to, how can people connect to you?
So honestly, the best way at this point is to message me on Instagram. And you could see, honestly, I'm not social media is not my strength. So it'll look like there's not much going on there, but I will receive messages. And so really that's the best way. I'll just be transparent with my site. I'm going to have a contact form page on my site, but it's not.
It's going to get there. It's
going to get there.
It's going to get there. But today you all can go to your Instagram page. And what is that?
Yes, Couples Decoder. Because my website is also couplesdecoder.com. COUPLES Decoder, couplesdecoder.com, and it's at Couples Decoder.
And I would encourage everyone to go to the website as well. There's a lot of great information there. So go check it out. You'll learn so much more about what we've talked about today. All right. So I have really enjoyed this conversation. I think that it was just an addition to the conversations we already had previously. And I think that, people listening or watching will take something from it. It will resonate. So I encourage everyone to go check it out. So now we are going to transition to what I call 3 things. So it's 3 things with Nechama. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Just helps our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So the first question is a 2-parter. How do you start and end the day?
So I start and end the day with intention for whatever's coming next. I mean, that's it.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's awesome. The second question is, so what's a goal or intention you have set for yourself this year? So obviously we'll be 2025. What's going to be big for you?
Exactly. Well, for this past year, my goal, which, I'm going to keep pursuing that, but it was really to create a lot of content, and I created a lot. I'm still hoping to, ramp it up even more, but create a lot of content. And it so relates to what you were saying before, which is to let my voice be heard in the world. And for 2025, I mean, can't get enough of that. It's more of that, honestly. And I really, with extra emphasis on letting my voice be heard in the world, like really bringing what I do to the world in a way that is joyful. I mean, the reason that I brand myself as an entertainment brand is that I actually believe it's what people want and need. What is entertainment? Storytelling. It's enjoy in a way we want to enjoy it, right? So my goal is to offer what I do in a way that people want to receive. I mean, I get it that way.
Yeah, I love that. All right. And the last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
So I find inspiration from meeting people, getting to know them. Yeah. I mean, each new person that I talk to really does inspire me, because when I talk to them often, whether that's how the conversation starts or not, I end up usually saying, hey, even if I meet them some other way, hey, I got these 2 questions. How most people are. So my goal is to really understand them. And it's very exciting for me because I love being able to really see people's individuality so quickly. Like, it's every single time. It's exciting for me, and for them usually too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. So the last question I'm going to ask you before I let you go is, what are 3 things you would like our audience to take away from this conversation today?
Exactly. So number 1, you have super talents. And if you don't know what they are, or maybe you are aware, what some of them are, but you don't know what all of them are, or you think you might have more than you know, okay, it will probably be fun to find out. So be open to discovering your super talents. The second thing is that I say that understanding yourself, your own personality, and the personality of your partner, but it could be anyone in any relationship, it doesn't have to be romantic. Okay, so understanding your own personality and other people's personality can really give you the tools to work through challenges that may have felt literally insurmountable up till now. Like, understanding your personality can really, flip it. Can really, you could be in a situation like, oh, that's it. There's nowhere to go from here. Understanding your personality can actually, allow for that. It really turn a whole new page. Yeah. And right, the third thing is, know that you are not alone. Anything that you struggle with, I guarantee there are many other people that struggle with the same thing. It's part of being human. I don't care what it is. It's part of being human, and it's not something to be ashamed of. I can guarantee you that. So it's just so important to remember.
Yes. Oh, I love those. Well, Nechama, I want to just say thank you so much for sharing with the girl community. It has been such a blast talking to you again. I just think like what you're doing is such important work. I love the way you approach it, because I think it is more approachable for people, even though you talk about people talk about assessments sometimes, but seeing it through the lens of like sometimes seeing people on TV that we relate to, being able to understand it in that way, I think is such a cool and fun way for people to like step into their own unique strengths as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor to be here. Truly. You are amazing. And yeah, have an amazing rest of your day, and everyone, who's listening. And I just so appreciate you. Really appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.